Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today, we're going to be talking about Borderlands. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons. So, let's get to it. Pros. Yes, there are pros. I know there's a lot of negativity surrounding this movie. We'll get to that later. But we're going to do the pros first because that's how I always do it. So, pros. This is based off of the video game of the same name. The first Borderlands game came out like in 2009, so it's like 15 years old. That first game was a hit. It was well liked, spawned a whole franchise. Borderlands 2 was stupidly successful, sold well over 20 million copies, which is insane for any game. And that game also has a really good reputation. And then it just ballooned after that. You had like Borderlands pre sequel and Borderlands 3, and what else? It's like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, a whole bunch of games that aren't as well liked as the first two games. But still, Borderlands is a big series. It's a well known series, been around for a long time. So obviously, you have brand name recognition, you know, and that's a good thing. So, well, maybe not in this case because some would say this movie bears no resemblance to the game, like at all, but it still has the name. So, brand name recognition, that's going to be a pro. Another pro is the cast here. We got some notable names in here. You know, quite a few people have said this movie was a very miscast when it comes to certain characters. But we still got some notable names in here. First, we got Kate Blanchett. It's really weird seeing her in a movie like this, but here she is. You know, she's done quite a lot for herself. Lots of big movies, lots of notable movies. First notable movie, she was in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy as uh, Garadel. I think that's how you say her name. I never watched these movies. But I know her character was like used in Rings of Power, and no one really liked that version of the character. So, yeah, yeah, she was in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Let's see, The Aviator. I guess I can mention the talented Mr. Ripley. I don't think anyone really remembers that movie all that much. Let's see, is Babel. Oh yeah, she was the villain in Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. She had like the weird accent and the weird hair. Yeah, I remember that. There's Curious Case of Benjamin Button, where she was Benjamin Button's love interest. You know, what else do we have? Robin Hood from 2010, if anyone even remembers that. Then she was back to doing the Hobbit. So you know, return to Middle Earth again. That's the same character. So what else we have? Monuments Men. Yeah, there's How to Train Your Dragon 2, but I'm not counting voiceover roles really. It was Cinderella 2015, where she was the evil stepmother. There's Carol, which was an Oscar movie. I think is Kate Blanchett. She won an Oscar, right? I'm not sure which movie. It was either Carol or Tar. One of the two. I'm about to find out right now. Oh, she has two Oscars. Okay, so she won her first Oscar for The Aviator, and her second Oscar. Oh, it wasn't for Carol or Tar. It was actually from Blue Jasmine. Okay, I don't remember Blue Jasmine. But apparently, it was a big the Oscar movie, and she did win. So she has two Oscars under her belt. So that's a hell of an accomplishment. Yeah, what else? Thor Ragnarok, where she was hella the main antagonist there. She was in Ocean's 8, A House of a Clock in Its Walls, which was directed by Eli Roth, who did direct Borderlands, or at least he did until, you know, reshoots. Um, Mowgli, oh god. Oh my god. I know this is a Netflix movie, but I legitimately forgot this existed until like right now. Warner Brothers was supposed to make like this um Jungle Book movie because Disney made it first. They had their own one planned, and then it just went to Netflix, and now it's literally just lost to the sands of time. So yeah, that was something to remember. But anywho, and not a whole lot after that. I know Tar was like a another award centric movie that she didn't win an Oscar for that, but Kate Blanchett. I mean, she is well known. People know who she is. Uh, but that's not all. We have more than Kate Blanchett. We got Kevin Hart. I have not talked about Kevin Hart in so long because a lot of his movies that he's made in the last few years have been like streaming movies, not like theatrical movies. So obviously you couldn't talk about those. But Kevin Hart, like 10 years ago, this man was everywhere. Like he was making all the movies and people were watching these movies. I mean, obviously started out, small, made a lot of supporting role stuff. Started in like the scary movies, particularly like 3 and 4. And then apparently he was in a 40-Year-Old Virgin. I forgot about that. I know he's in, well, he was an epic movie, but you wouldn't recognize him because he was white. Literally. It was weird. I don't want to get into epic movie. That movie deserves to be forgotten. There's superhero movie where he was basically the best friend of the main character. It was Drake Bell. Yeah, yeah, remember that. But yeah, lots of smaller movies, and then he was doing stand up at the time, and he really didn't. Kevin Hart laugh at myself. I think that was when he was starting to get like a push, starting to become more recognized, and then Think Like a Man that definitely helped him a lot. But then Kevin Hart, let me explain, that was huge for a concert movie, like I don't know, a stand up movie. Let's say that. But then 2014 was big for him. He had Ride Along, which had the biggest January opening of all time for only a year, but it was still a huge hit for January standards. Yeah, About Last Night and Think Like a Man 2 didn't do as well, obviously, but they still made a decent amount of cash. As did Wedding Ringer, Get Hard, Ride Along 2, Central Intelligence. Like this, Kevin Hart was box office gold. Like he really was. People paid to see him, even though there was the complaint that he was literally just, Kevin Hart playing Kevin Hart in all these movies. Kind of like how The Rock plays basically himself in most of his movies. So it's only fitting that the two teamed up for Central Intelligence, and not just that, but also the Jumanji movies, Welcome to the Jungle and Next Level, both of which were huge successes. Then you got Night School, which was a hit. What Now did okay ish. The Upside was a big old surprise hit, considering when it came out there was a lot of controversy surrounding Kevin. I think because he was supposed to have like an Oscar gig, and then it like stopped because I think it was because some I think jokes or whatever he had like back in the day were they didn't age too good. Let's just say that. And there's a bit of controversy surrounding that. Didn't hurt the Upside at all. Then after that, after 2019, just a whole lot of Netflix movies. And now we're here, where he's very much not the main character, but he's like, obviously they want to push him because, he has a lot of success under his belt. So who else do we got? Jack Black's voice. So not Jack Black the person, his voice. He is a Claptrap, this robot right here that's under this guy. That's who Claptrap is voicing. If you know Borderlands, you know how central Claptrap is. You see him like everywhere. But we might as well talk about Jack Black because why not? um, yeah, Jack Black is known for like his voiceover roles and live action roles. I mean, not a whole lot during like the beginning of his career. First movie I feel like where he was really noticed was like Shallow Hal. That was the first one. A movie that, yeah, it was weird. Basically, it was like him and Gwyneth Paltrow, and it was like some curse or something. Some something happened where he sees like this very obese woman, but like through his eyes, nice looking Gwyneth Paltrow. It was a weird movie. He voiced an Ice Age. I don't remember that at all. But School of Rock, that's a classic. Okay, everyone knows that movie. Okay, that is probably objectively objectively is definitely one of his best movies, and it's like probably the best showcase for him because just how gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. But School of Rock is a classic. Envy is not a classic. No one remembers that movie even existed. Shark Tale, yeah, that was a movie. King Kong, 2005, which got a bit of hate for some reason. I thought it was a good movie, but you look at Rotten Tomatoes audience score, it's like a 50% or something, so that's weird. Nacho Libre, fucking classic. Right there. That is a banger. I don't care what you say. That is one of my personal faves right there. Nacho Libre. I can watch that as many times as possible and I'll never not enjoy it. Okay. So yeah, Nacho Libre, bona fide classic right there. Well, so there's like the Holiday, there's Tenacious D. That's kind of relevant now because they were doing like these concerts and then like not Jack Black, but the guy he was with. I forgot his name. But he made like a comment about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, saying like what like the gunman shouldn't have missed, and that obviously caused a lot of backlash. And then they had to cancel the tour. It was a mess. It was a real mess. But I just had to, mention that. And then Kung Fu Panda, obviously, Po the panda. He was like the main. Jack Black was like the main selling point of those movies, and those movies were all successful, so it worked. Yeah, Tropic Thunder, then a bunch of Year One, Gulliver's Travels. No one remembers either of those movies. Then a whole lot of nothing for a while. Then he came back with Goosebumps. Then Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, and then Jumanji: Next Level with Kevin Hart. So there's those. There's the house with a clock with his walls, where he was also with Kate Blanchett and Eli Roth, which is real weird. And then the Super Mario Brothers movie last year, where he voiced Bowser, where he was great at that. And then Kung Fu Panda 4 earlier this year, which was a big hit. And now Borderlands. So you got Jack Black. And then our last notable face here is Jamie Lee Curtis, who's been, quite a few movies. I mean, Laurie Strode in the Halloween movies. Okay. She was Jamie Lee Curtis was a scream queen, if you will, thanks to the Halloween movies, specifically one and two. And then there's also, what else? We got Prom Night, The Fog. Yeah, a lot of these movies got like 2000s remakes that no one remembers at all. But then after that, anything, it's just like True Lives, I guess. It's Halloween H2O. Halloween Resurrection, where they killed Laurie off. It was one of the worst decisions ever made in a horror movie. They got Freaky Friday, which became a big cult movie, a big cult classic, and made a nice amount of money. That Christmas with the Cranks, I guess. Beverly Hills Chihuahua, not really. I guess that too. They got Halloween, the Halloween trilogy we got recently. That started out real good, and then just fell off a cliff afterwards. But all these movies were technically successful. They got Knives Out, which was a huge hit. Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was a huge hit. She won an Oscar for that, for Best Supporting Actress. And then Haunted Mansion, we're not going to talk about that one. And then Borderlands. So yeah, we got some notable faces here, some very recognizable faces. So I would say that's a good thing. That's a pro. So that's pro number two. Pro number three. Um. Okay. Eli Roth. All right. So Eli Roth, he's had a career, to say the least. He's made a lot of movies that are, in a word, I don't even know what's the right word. Disgusting, foul, diabolical, sadistic. I don't. There's several words you can use. But he made movies like Cabin Fever, Hostile, or Grindhouse. Well, actually, he didn't make Grindhouse. He made like a fake trailer in Grindhouse, which was Thanksgiving, which would become a real movie about 2 decades later. Yeah, Hostel Part 2. Hostel Part 2 is one of the most fucked up movies you will ever watch. That is a movie that will probably make you hate the human race, honestly, because it's just so just sick, not in a good way. It makes you like ill. Then A Green Inferno is kind of like in the same ballpark. And then Death Wish, I don't remember that one. But The House of a Clock in its Walls. This was a kids movie. Yes, Eli Roth, Mr. Hostile himself. He made a kids movie. Like, huh? It's so strange. It's like Martin Scorsese making Hugo, or Zack Snyder making that Legend of the Guardians movie. Like these like family friendly movies coming from these very much not family friendly directors is such a strange thing. And then last year, Man made Thanksgiving, which I quite liked. And yeah, a decent amount of these movies have done well financially. Critically, it's kind of a whole nother issue, but his box office track record isn't too bad. So I'd say yeah, that's a pro, kinda. Even though the movie ended up, because he was working on Thanksgiving, the movie had like several weeks of reshoots, which were done by one Tim Miller, the man behind Deadpool and Terminator Dark Fate. So yeah. um but yeah, Eli Roth is credited as the director of this movie, so that's who we're really going to talk about. But yeah, I'd label him as a pro, more or less. Any other pros? Well, I guess video game movies, compared to how they were like in the past, they're a lot more successful now. There's a bit way less of a stigma surrounding these adaptations, both on the big screen and the small screen. But like on the big screen, I mean, the last few years have been great for the genre. I mean, you had Sonic the Hedgehog 2, you had the Super Mario Brothers movie that just demolished all expectations for video game movies, making like $1.3 billion. But yeah, the Sonic movie too, I mean, obviously doesn't hold a candle to the Mario movie, but still made a lot of cash at the end of the day, like a 400 mil. The first Sonic movie made like 300 mil. Detective Pikachu made like, I don't know, 400 mil. Uncharted, same thing. Five Nights at Freddy's last year was huge. It did way better than I ever could have anticipated. So yeah, these video game movies are a lot more profitable. They're less risky now than they were like 15 years ago. So that's a good thing, even though there's still a lot of, failure within the genre. And this is definitely going to be a part of that list of failures. But video game movies are in a healthier place now. So that's a pro. Although we have to go to the cons because you look at reviews for this movie, and man, I mean, look, okay. My expectations for this movie were very low. I saw the trailer in front of like I think it was either Twisters or Deadpool and Wolverine, one of the two. And the movie it just didn't look good. Something just felt off about it. Nothing worked. It was just ugh. I don't even know what to say. I didn't feel much of anything. I wasn't feeling like anger or anything. I felt nothing, which is honestly worse than anger. So yeah, but I just knew the movie just didn't look good. But as the movie got closer to release, red flags started popping up everywhere regarding this movie. Like earlier reactions towards it were really bad. People, the fans, Borderlands fans were just like, fuck this movie. Like, the vibe around this movie just got worse and worse and worse. And when the reviews actually came out for this movie officially, um, when I first saw the score for Borderlands, this critic score, it was 3%. Yes, 3%. At best, I thought it'd be like 20. But no, it was when I first saw that score, it was 3%. 3. I was shocked. I was I I had to just soak that in because I was just like, damn, a 3%. I don't even remember a movie getting a score that low ever. I mean, obviously some movies have gotten a score that low, but it's been a long time since I've seen something like that. But apparently for a good while it was at 0%. But then it went up to 3, then it went up to 8, then down to 6, and now it's at 9%, which is still one of the worst scores I've seen for a big movie in a long time. That's worse than Madam Web, which is really impressive. And its audience score is also shit. It's at a 49% uh, audience score. So audiences hate it just as much as the critics do. So everyone's in agreement when it comes to this movie. There's no division. And if that wasn't enough, its cinema score is a D plus. A D plus for this. Like, I mean, I know The Exorcism got like a D, but that wasn't like a major movie. This is a major movie. This cost over $100 million. Like this was envisioned to be a blockbuster, and it got a D plus cinema score. For comparison, Madam Web got a C plus. This is a whole grade lower than Madam Web, a movie that got memed into oblivion, a movie that no one believed in, not even the actors. Like actually did worse than that. Like that's incredible. Because I thought for sure Madam Web would be like, the lowest of the low when it came to quality for like 2024 movies, but this done beat it. Apparently, I have no plans to watch this movie ever. At least with Madam Web, that looked like a disaster I could like kind of sink my teeth into because it looked it looked more interesting compared to Borderlands. Where in Borderlands I didn't care at all. But yeah, a D plus cinema score, a 9% critic score, 49% audience score. Word of mouth is toxic. It is abominable. So that's an enormous con right there. And basically with video game adaptations, it's kind of set them back by a good 10 to 15 years, really 15 to 20 years. I mean, I know these like the ones I'm about to talk about, they're TV shows, but they're still video game adaptations at the end of the day. This is less like Last of Us and Fallout and more like Halo and the Resident Evil show on Netflix. It could even be a Twisted Metal where expectations for that were hella low, but it still turned out to be like a decently reviewed show. It could even match that. Like that's fucking embarrassing. So yeah, word of mouth is beyond shit. So that's a huge con. Another con is that this weekend, I mean, Deadpool Wolverine is still a thing. It's very much still a thing. It's very much still making a lot of money. So that's gonna affect this movie a lot. I mean, sure, it's PG-13, but that doesn't matter at all. So Deadpool Wolverine's still very much an issue because they kind of share like the same genre. And then you have It Ends With Us actually, becoming like a big hit right now. So the whole weekend's pretty much about that. It's about Ryan Reynolds versus Blake Lively at the box office, and Borderlands, no one gives a damn about that. And if that wasn't enough, next week we got Alien Romulus, which also targets the same audience as Borderlands. So that's gonna take away any, I don't even think this movie has big screens. Does it? I don't think it does. But it's gonna take away that core audience. So Borderlands is fucked from several different ways. From Deadpool Wolverine to It Ends With Us to Alien Romulus. It's fucked. So competition, that's a big old con. See, another con I can think of is that, I guess I can mention the advertising. I mean, it's kind of there, but not. And again, the trailer, it didn't impress anyone. It certainly didn't impress me. It made me think, oh man, this movie's gonna be a stinker, isn't it? And it very much turned out to be one, a really bad one. So yeah, just lackluster marketing that did the movie like no favors. So yeah, that's obviously a con. There's also the fact that, first of all, the PG-13 rating. I say that's a real detriment for this movie because you think, oh, PG-13, you think that would give it like a bigger, a better chance of success. Well, in this case, the games were M-rated. Okay, they were made for adults. So watering down the PG-13, you risk alienating those Borderlands fans. And yes, I know Mortal Kombat did the same thing in the 90s, but look, that one made more sense. There was logic to that decision because Mortal Kombat, at that time, a good amount of that fan base was kids and teens because it was the cool thing to play back then. So by making that R-rated, you locked them out. So making that PG-13, it made sense. And it was probably the reason why the movie was as successful as it was. Borderlands, no kid or teen gives a damn about Borderlands. Okay? It's been always like played by adults. And even then, the franchise is just irrelevant now. Like, the hype it had like 10 something years ago, it's gone. And I definitely think it's one of those situations where you waited way too late to make a Borderlands movie. You should have done it when the series was still like well liked and popular and relevant. Like, that's the problem a lot of these video game adaptations have. They wait too long. And sometimes that's not like a huge issue. Like, say with the Sonic movie, or like the animated Mario movie, or Five Nights at Freddy's, because those movies had fan bases, strong fan bases. Borderlands really doesn't have that same type of loyalty that those movies had. And plus, the Borderlands games have gotten a reputation for being like hella annoying. So yeah, that's not great. So yeah, the games being off their peak, that doesn't help this movie at all. And the fact that it took way too long to make a movie like this, that's a con. And I guess I mentioned previews, 1.3 million. That's not the worst, but it's not good. I mean, I'm not sure what I can compare this to. I guess a lot of people obviously a lot of people have called this movie Guardians of the Galaxy Light. And the first Borderlands game predates the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Yes, that is true, but that doesn't matter because the way, it's like a perspective thing. It's like how John Carter was seen as a ripoff of Star Wars and Avatar, even though the source material was like several decades before either of those movies. So it didn't matter because that's what audiences believed. If audiences believe this is a ripoff to Guardians of the Galaxy, then that's what they're gonna believe. So yeah, obviously this is Guardians of the Galaxy light. But what can I really compare this to? I don't know. Definitely not Deadpool and Wolverine. God no. Um. Uh. I can't think of anything I could directly compare it to. But yeah, it's just it's preview numbers. They're not like they're just meh. And I can't imagine it's gonna have a very high multiplier. Because again, word of mouth is just ass. So yeah, lackluster Thursday previews. I'm gonna label that as a con, and I think that's it. I think I've covered all the main points. So opening weekend, this was originally projected to hit like the teens. That's not happening at all. Now it's projected to hit like around 10 million or less, which is more realistic. So I think I'm probably gonna hit like 9, 10 million opening weekend. Its legs non-existent. There's no way this movie's gonna have a long life with word of mouth as toxic as it is. It's not happening. So I'm gonna say less than 20 million. I think this movie's gonna die a quick death from theaters and be one of the biggest bombs of 2024. So yeah, it's just no good. There's nothing good to say about the situation surrounding this movie. There's nothing. I didn't even mention how one of the people, like the artist, whatever, who was behind like a Claptrap, his design in the movie, didn't even get credited in the movie. Like, bruh, like how's that even happened? Well, that's fucked up. And then another thing is that one of the screenwriters, Craig Matson, this dude wrote The Last of Us. I think he wrote Chernobyl as well. His name was attached to this, but then it was removed and was replaced by Joe Crombie, which is widely believed to be like a fake name, like a pseudonym, kind of like an Alan Smithy type thing. Although apparently Craig denied it, but that's what a lot of people believe. So yeah, the fact that you got that story going on, that doesn't paint a good picture at all. I mean, the fact that this movie was filmed in 2021 and then nothing for like a long time, it's just like dormant. That should have set off all the alarm bells that this movie was doomed. But I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna maybe see how it is. And then the more I saw the movie, and the more I'm just like, nope, this movie's gonna be a bomb. And lo and behold, it is a huge bomb. So yeah, yeah. Oof. So that was Borderlands. We got two more movies to talk about this weekend. We got Cuckoo, and then the real movie everyone's gonna watch this weekend. It Ends With Us. And then that'll be it for the weekend. So yeah, so that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. You want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage. All previous prediction videos I made this year, the past few years. You want to watch any of those videos? From any of those videos. Go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. The one time I talked about the movie was episode 197. I talked about it alongside Saw X, White Bird, Dirty Dancing 2, and Ferrari. And I mentioned in that description how, Borderlands was in post-production purgatory for years, because it was. And that really should have been a sign of utter doom. So, yeah. That was the one time I talked about it. If you want to watch any of the other 250 episodes, you want to watch all the 250 episodes I've made of Canceled, you want to binge them all, go right ahead. There's also box office recaps where I go over the box office results for any particular month. I just made my July recap like yesterday, so you can go watch that now. My August recap won't be till I'm gonna say between the 6th and the 13th. That's what that's when it should release. If anything changes, I'll let you know. But yeah, that's when it should be able to come out. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I might as well mention my summer 2024 recap. Uh, I don't know if I want to. I might split it into two parts, maybe three. I don't know. I mean, winners, that'll be easy. Losers, that'll be easy too. Middle ground movies, that's a lot harder to determine. So I have to think about it, but that'll come probably late September. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos of Man on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.